Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. My name is May. Welcome back to my channel if you're returning, and welcome to my channel if you are new. Please subscribe below, and that would mean a lot to help my channel grow. Alright, without any rambling or gushy stuff, let's go ahead and get started with my Makeup 101 series. This is the third installment. This is setting powders, so setting powders 101. I hope you enjoy, I hope this is helpful, and let's go ahead and get started. There are a few different types of setting powders, and these are really important because when you apply liquid foundation, if you use powder foundation, you don't need a setting powder unless you're oily, which I will get to that. But if you're using liquid foundation, you need to be setting it with a powder. And I specifically did not set my powder today to show you how different ways you can set your face with powder. And I have a couple different types. They both are loose, but you have translucent powder, which is completely of course it's translucent. It's completely it's not detectable on the skin at all, and it generally looks white, and this can either come in pressed or loose powder. These are loose powders. When you can see the particles of product, I don't know how else to describe it, but it's like flour. It's like the consistency of flour. And a pressed powder is simply that. It's all of that loose powder pressed into a compact. Pressed powders tend to be a little more convenient for on the go, which is important if you're oily because you are going to want to touch up throughout the day to keep the oil at bay. And there's a couple different finishes to loose powder, and powder doesn't just come in translucent, it also comes in colors. I make my own with cornstarch and cocoa powder, and it works just fine. But I also have the Bare Minerals Mineral Veil, which also has a tint to it. But there's a couple different finishes. So there's a matte and there's a luminous. So the Bare Minerals Mineral Veil is an illuminating powder, and this is a matte powder. This is going to keep your face matte. And for people with dry skin, I recommend an illuminating powder. Maybe not one so intense as the Bare Minerals Mineral Veil. I can't use this all over my face, but one that does not set your face super duper matte so it doesn't dry out your skin. Now there's a couple different ways of applying product. The most common way is with a brush. I have a few different sizes here, all work with powder for different ways. So I have 4 different sizes from large to small, and I will get to the uses of each size. You can apply with a powder puff, which you can buy online. They look like pieces of cloth, and you use them to press into your skin. It's not cloth, but it kind of looks like that. Some of them come in patterns. You can buy them at Sephora or Ulta, I believe. And you can also use a sponge, which comes in a powder compact, which is great for touch-ups. It's really easy and convenient. Now there's a few different things you want to avoid with applying powder before we get started. You want to avoid applying too much product because your face will get cakey, and this applies to touch-ups as well. Only want to apply small amounts because otherwise it's all going to build up on your face and you're going to get crackly, gross, cakey. It's not fun. Even with illuminating powders you get that. With translucent powders, which I talked about, which are completely see-through, they look white but they don't show up like that on your skin if it's a good translucent powder. Ones that are silica based end up looking white, so if you apply it underneath your eyes and somebody takes a picture of you with flash photography, the ones with silica are going to flash back and you're going to look like you have a white cast underneath your eye. So they're great for events or day-to-day things where you are not going to be taking any flash photography. That sounds so fancy, but you know, anything where you're not going to be taking those type of pictures, they are great for, and they often look absolutely beautiful, and it's also great if you don't want to alter the shade of your foundation. Not every powder works for everyone. Some people like thicker powders, some people like thinner powders, some people like loose, pressed. You just have to see what powders you like. Setting powders are not to be mistaken for foundation powder. You can use tinted powders as a alternative, as a super light version of a powder foundation. If you want a super light coverage, you just want the teeniest, tiniest tint. Those work great for oily skin, but typically setting powders are very different from foundation powders. Sometimes I will use my cocoa powder as a foundation. but more often than not that's on really, really natural days. It hardly gives me a tint at all, and it's more just to keep my face from getting shiny when I'm sweating and all stuff like that. I'm going to show you a couple different ways you can apply powder. I'm going to use my phone as my mirror. It's very fancy. So my favorite way is using a larger brush. They make even larger brushes for this for powder. And this is a fluffy, not dense brush. You do not want a dense brush for powder. That's just going to cake on more than you bargained for. If you do use a dense brush, be cautioned. I use this, and I'm picking up powder here, to set the outside areas of my face. I used all cream products today, so I'm being careful to avoid my highlight. I don't want to disturb that. I'm also blending this down my neck. So I use a buffing motion, but you can also use a patting motion. I often use 2 of those to get a nice flawless finish. So I'm just setting all over the face like so. Now that's one way you can apply it. If you're using a sponge, you're just going to press into the skin, and the same thing with a powder puff. Now, if you're touching up throughout the day, you're going to want a smaller brush. Now, a lot of blush products will come, especially cheaper blush products, will come with a teeny tiny itty bitty little brush. These look worthless for anything, but they are good for touching up. So for instance, if you are shiny around your nose or you're shiny on your forehead, you can get really detailed, so you're not applying too much powder everywhere and it doesn't cake up. So you're just getting the areas that need the powdering, and you're not powdering areas that don't need it. A brush like this also works. This is pretty dense, but this is also same idea, more detailed. This is great for detailed work when you are setting the face all over. For instance, if you are like me and you use 2 different types of powders, you can get areas better. So this is a smaller powder brush, and this works for under the eyes and very detailed areas. So now I'm switching to the Bare Minerals Mineral Veil, and I'm setting under my eyes. And I like to tap under my eyes, so I make sure I get every area, because I hate it when my under eyes are sticky from concealer. So I'm using light sweeping motions like so. And that is a more shiny powder. So I'm just going to take the excess that's on my brush, and I know I set my nose and my chin with matte powder, but I'm just taking some of the excess over my highlighting points so that those stay nice and shiny. Alright, so there's really not much to applying powder, but it really is a great thing. Pressed powders are great for on the go. Just take a small teeny tiny brush with it, or use the sponge it came with, and they are far more convenient to touch up when you're in the bathroom, at a restaurant, or wherever you are going, than by taking along your loose powder and then you open it and everything spills everywhere. A pressed powder, unless it breaks, is generally pretty tidy. I hope this was easy for you guys to follow. I hope the information was pertinent and that it really helped you in your journey through makeup. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment, support my channel, help it grow. As always, check out the description box below for drugstore product recommendations and ideas from my own personal experience and research. And don't forget to check out my other videos. I have several more that I have posted before this, and stay tuned for new videos. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!